having a lot of the people who were photographers at these news stations working with drones and getting drones certified so they could cover these stories and get shots that you'd never be able to get and be able to tell the story in a different way. Also, a lot of the vehicles that we use, but that's all part of the marketing as well because you're still dealing with a television station. So part of it's the story. How do we use this new technology to tell stories? Why to get ratings? So that takes away from the credibility of these news channels and and these stations because they're trying to find new ways to bring in viewers. They're trying to tell a story in a new way with the new technology. And I've done some stories with 360 cameras, so that's a whole other way of telling stories and bringing a new story to people as well. Um, but yeah, it's you're still getting the story. You're just trying to use the technology in a different way and to present it in a different way. And part of, like I said, part of it is marketing. Also, part of it is time stories to fit commercials. We have when you're going to what are they called news packages, and that's if you have the full news package. Sometimes they're called VOSATs and they're shorter. But a typical news package is typical news story, what you're used to seeing, with narration and sound bites, and it's wrapped up in about a minute and a half. Those are called news packages. And when you have a certain time limit, so okay, you only have 1:30 you only have 1:30 for your story. You only have 1:30 for that story. You don't have more than that. So because there's certain breaks that you have to hit, and they have blocks in a newscast. So your A block, which is your first block, might be 10 minutes, and all the things that are being aired in that segment before the commercial has got to fit within that 10 minutes. It could be a few seconds short here or there. You still have pad. Think about music and teases and stuff like that, and weather and other aspects. But that first break has got to hit at 10 minutes. Why you have to be boom to black in 10 minutes so they can start doing the commercials. But that's the way it is. It's the way it always has been. You have more flexibility online, where you have other outlets to do more in-depth stories. Sometimes on the more traditional side, we have our feature stories for like what we call sweeps pieces. Sweeps are those times, 4 times during the year, that broadcast stations have. They really keep a track of ratings and who's watching what. That's why you'll find a lot of shows have cliffhangers then, and big things happen, crossovers happen during that, and the same fits with news as well. That's why out of nowhere you'll see, this special five day edition of a special investigative report on that's been saved usually for sweeps because people want to just watch that. But yeah, time is essential. If you're going to be in the television news, time is everything. You only have a certain amount of time, and that's the way it works. It's to be expected to be credible and provide believable imagery. It's part because it's video. You're shooting video. It's got to be the imagery's got to be believable. Can't this isn't really a venue where you're putting or should be putting things like for special effects and stuff like that in this venue because it's news. If people are using that, then you gotta really wonder about the credibility of that place. But yeah, so you're trying to be credible. You try to provide the imagery. You're trying to fill in that time. Time is essential, and there's less of you than ever before. So it's a combination of what you have locally and what you are able to download off the wires and off the feed services that you subscribe to as a local station. That every single television station in this country has. So because they need to be able to fill up that time. So that's why sometimes you'll see national packages or international packages, stories from what you more nationally known anchors and reporters, because they got rights to that footage because they have an agreement as with that service, and every single station has that, and all the major networks have one. So just do know that, and I've actually worked at one of them. But yeah, so understand that print reporters are a little different. And we report on stories where they occur. Broadcast news also does that. We have to, especially from the local standpoint. You have to be there for it. Sometimes you'll get stories that someone else was shot and done, and you put something together. But for the most part, television, new broadcast news does that as well. So report on stories where they occur. We do that too. I've been at lots of stories where the news is occurring, or we wouldn't have the footage and the stuff for it. The difference between we in TV news is time stories to fit commercials. Here it's cut stories to fit physical space. So you think it goes back to print and the newspaper and how much space we have in the paper as opposed to advertisements, which was more of an issue back in the day. As you know, with less and less advertising now on the print form, they've just gone online. But from a traditional standpoint, they cut their stories to fit a certain space in the newspaper. And then you're expected to be detached. You're expected to be detached when you're in broadcast news as well, if you're doing it the right way. Medium doesn't matter, okay? Anybody who thinks, oh, it's print is detached and broadcast news. If they are, they are. It has nothing to do with the format that they're in. It has to do with the philosophy of said media outlet or the corporate aspect of it or something like that. It has nothing to do with the print or broadcast aspect of this whole thing. So that's I'm going to be talking about a couple things that I find inconsistent in what the book says and what is reality. I'm going to give you reality. All right? Because a lot of times some of these authors of books think they have a good idea and they might not have anybody who's actually worked in the media or worked in that form of media, and well, they do some research on it, but unless you've actually been in it, you're not going to really know. I've been in it, so I know. But yeah, you're expected to be detached on both if you're run right, and yeah, newspaper can easily not be detached. There's plenty of examples around the country with that. Plenty of them, even though it depends on how they're run. Like I said. All right. Some other differences between print, TV, and internet news. The pretty face, happy talk culture. You're seeing David Muir there, anchor of ABC News. Now with television, and this has been an issue for many, many years. Thing is people get older. It happens. We all get older. We don't look as good as when we were like 26, 27 as we are when we're 37 or 47. And it's a very visual medium. And over the years, many, many times, both male and female anchors, female anchors definitely get it worse because in the male anchors, and this is sexist, and I don't agree with this at all, they say, oh, they're distinguished, and they don't give the same leeway to women, which is wrong and disgusting. If you're a good journalist and you're a good anchor, and you've proven yourself, and you're a credible member of that team and that community, you keep that. Now, some stations are perfectly fine. I'm from my station up right by me at WGAL and lots of other stations in our market. They've had people at some of these people have been at these stations for years and years and years, and they're marketable commodities, and they've aged and they don't look as good as when they first started. And so they've gained weight, gotten grayer, lost some hair, wrinkles, and all things happen to you when you get older. And these people have kept their jobs. Now, but this is in the industry for a whole. Oh yes, very much. You'll find that people are losing their jobs because of the way they look, and they don't look as good. And they have consultants. Oh, we did a we did research, and they said that they didn't like this person anymore. They thought this would be better if they found someone younger to do this, which is very superficial and not very good. Maybe they'll be moved to another position behind the scenes, or maybe a less prominent role on air to maybe a special projects or kind of some kind of thing. But it's all for that very shallow reason, because of just the way people look. And it's television. And that attractive half-witted anchor, it exists. I'm not going to say every person who looks nice is a half-wit, but some of them are, some of them aren't. Some of the anchors I work with are absolutely wonderful human beings, and they get it. And they realize they're part of a team, and they're all here to get a job done. And they realize that what's going on. And some believe the hype, and they know, well, I'm a marketable commodity, and I'm important, and I'm the face on the thing, and they're not good to work with. And some of them aren't the brightest, sharpest tools in the shed, honestly, because they believe the stuff, and people will kowtow to them, just like any job. But definitely in this, because you think about television, I mean, it all depends on the station. It depends on the corporate structure. It depends on the leadership at said station, what they value. But that's that's the case in a lot of places. I worked at Fox News, where some of the anchors are really good, and some of them are like, okay, whatever. They're there because they look nice, or they toe the company line, or toe something, a certain narrative. And same with the other stations I've worked at as well. And it's a bad side of the industry. So it's the reality. Also, happy talk. The banter that goes on. Well, we're just talking about these important, very serious stories, and then they try to lighten it up before they go to the tease. The tease is the thing before the break. And then, well, I saw that, wasn't that? Oh, I don't understand that. Oh, and it makes everybody think, oh, they're friendly. We like to be with them. We're bringing them into our homes, and they're buddies, and we can drink a beer with them or soda pop, and just sit down and have some lunch with them, and that's what they're trying to get at. And they've been doing it for years, and they'll continue to do it because we have to fake that we like each other. And sometimes actually the people do like each other. Sometimes you get the right combination of people who are there to do the job, and they actually enjoy being around each other. Some of these people can be around and working at the same desk for 20 years easily, and actually become friends. And sometimes they just can't stand each other, but they still put on a good act. They know when those cameras are on, and then it's good. And once again, it comes down to that specific station, the specific personalities of that station. But they a long time ago they figured, they want people to enjoy enjoy what's going on, and that they're trusted, and that's part of it. So to understand that. Also, sound bites. I can't tell you how many sound bites I have cut in my time, just as sound bites, as what are called VOSOTs within news packages. The sound bite, when I first started in 1995, right out of college, was about 15 seconds long on average. And now it's probably about 8. When we used to joke about, what am I supposed to do with an 8-second soundbite? I don't know. And now people just do 8 seconds, and you're not getting anything out of it. The coverage is worse. It's far worse than it's ever been, on many different levels. And the fact that you have 8-second sound bites most of the time, it takes away from the overall product for the journalism. Because we're supposed to entertain, but we're supposed to be informing. And there's a lot of aspects of this industry, from corporate standpoint and just technologically, and the rat race of everyday work, and that just seems to chip away, make the job harder and harder and harder and harder. So if you know how to do it, you're really, really good at what you do. Right? It's hard to do when you're learning, and when you're in it, it absolutely stinks. At times, sometimes it's fine, but it's like especially when you're first starting to learn, you get thrown into the fire, and you really learn a lot, and then you realize it helps you. It helps you become better. It makes you more well-rounded. It proves that you prove to yourself what you never thought you could do that you can, and lots of other things that you thought were tough before aren't so much anymore, because you pushed to a limit that you never thought you could reach. And you'll find that with a lot of different aspects of this. But yeah, the soundbite, and that is the equivalent when you talk about quotes in newspaper articles. It's the same thing. How do you use them? Are you being responsible with those sound bites, and when you're telling a story? Are those sound bites or those quotes complementing and completing that story? That's part of what we do. Are they being taken in context, or are they intentionally being manipulated to show a certain point of view, or want the people to think a certain way? Because that's done too. I've thought about that quite a bit in all the places I've worked. I'm like, this isn't representative of what that you're doing. And you go, what are you, a Boy Scout? I'm like, that's the right way to do it. You're taking it out of context. And I got, at all the places I worked, I got that. But it's become focus of a lot of criticism for all these reasons, and rightfully so. That's why you're here. You're here to learn about this, because most people aren't going to understand, because they watch I watch TV. I read my things. I read my newspaper, or on the web, or on your phone, or whatever. They don't get it. They're passive. They're passive consumers of all this, and we're creating. We're the ones getting the stories, and we're the ones who are responsible for that. And for a litany of reasons, it's gone downhill dramatically. And that's just a whole other class in itself to talk about. But yeah, and it has. It deserves that criticism on where we've gone to, and I'm scared to see where it's going next. All right. And then, of course, there's, as you've seen, the talking heads, politics. I hate politics around it for all that time. For the record, I'm independent. I don't usually talk about that, but I've always been independent. I always thought that fit well in, even before I was actually in news. I've always been independent because I'm not a checklist type of person. I don't I look at the situation, and then some things I'll agree with you, some things I'll disagree with you. I don't have a list of who I'm supposed to be. I look at the issue, and then I'm like, all right, yes or no, or maybe, hey, here's a concept. I might actually have a different idea. I know, shocker. Should only be one of two ways of thinking, which is preposterous to me. But anyway, from a news standpoint, and pundits and talking heads and politics, now that's all we seem to have on all the different cable news networks, which has further exasperated the problem. And it's because why? And it's 24/7. First started with CNN, and they were the only one in town because they went 24/7 in the early 80s. And then because prior to that, people would just wait till they had local news, but like the national network news was 6:30, and there's still 6:30 NBC, ABC, NBC national news, which has gone downhill, and lost influence because of all these other different places to get news today, especially with the web and all that. But now the talking heads, it is cheaper. It's cheaper to just bring in someone. We're going to talk about this issue or that issue, and it's always someone who's got a political standpoint or viewpoint on it. You can tell a little bit better on who's representing it some more. If you really analyze, it's on how the interviews are staged, who they have. Is it just a parade of the same political thought one after another? Do they have combined interviews with different viewpoints at the same time, or do they at least go back to back with one viewpoint interview maybe at one point, and then back, and the next interview they have right after that is the opposing interview? They all take a different angle with what they do it, and they've gone completely off another niche. We've got what they call partisan programming. Fox News, conservative, liberal, MSNBC, and yes, CNN. Your book and this said that CNN is moderate and middle of the road. No. At one point they used to be somewhat, but now they're not. They've proven they're right there with MSNBC now. And you'll find it's that a lot of the major networks, though they on broadcast, because MSNBC, NBC, there's no difference. One has an M before it and is on cable, while the NBC is on the broadcast. So it's basically become one and the same. CBS, ABC, they have their issues with corporate aspects with Universal and Disney and the way they've decided to cover things, and though they won't ever say it and they still try to hide it somewhat, but you can see in what they do and who they hire, such as like ABC with, I've talked about this before with George Stephanopoulos on Good Morning America. He was the Clinton in charge of, he was the spokesperson, and then he was also a part of their main strategies and has been a long-time ally for them. And like I said, my problem isn't with him being hired by the network, because having that kind of position, you deserve some sort of position, but more as a political analyst or hosting a political show, not as Good Morning America news anchor. And you may say, oh, it's a morning show, but it still lends some sort of journalistic credibility, even though it is a morning show. That the host should have some sort of journalism aspect to them as the main host. I know, and I have no problem with Robin Roberts. She worked her way up. She was a journalist. Yes, she was a sports figure before that, but she went back and she cut her teeth and worked her way up after her playing career, and then she worked hard as a reporter. So I don't have a problem with her being one of the hosts in that way. So it's different, and it's, hey, we're talking about talking heads, and these people make me feel fuzzy about the way I feel, and this reinforces who I am. That's not what news is supposed to be, and that's what this is. It's all it is creating more tension, more hatred, more division, and basically propaganda. It's propaganda. It stops being news, just starts being blatant propaganda, and what is that? We as future, those who want to go into journalism have to take it back. And is it hard? Yeah, it's really hard. But if enough of you just think that way, you will eventually get to a point in power, and you'll be able to make the change. Or if you just go and fall in line with what they do, and just know what you're doing is hurting and just further dividing. And a lot of people don't want to think about that, and maybe they should. It's really tough when you're in there. You have a job, and you're trying to just do that job as best you can, and you try to bring it up as much as you can, and sometimes people look at you strange and call you a Boy Scout, in my case, but there's a certain way of doing it, and I'm at least trying to get it into your heads now, trying to be impartial and taking journalism back, getting that viewpoint up, because then you're nothing more propagandists. That's what a lot of these cable networks have become. Okay, we're talking about convergence enhances and changes journalism. And the convergence is the combining of all the different technologies and all the different venues of how it's changed the role of what journalist is. Now we have to break news constantly and instantly at this 24/7 breakneck speed. And you got to do it. And if you work for a TV station, and even online, you've got to have a lot of different skills. But obviously, you have to know how to write up like almost like a newspaper article, because if you're talking about the internet, to have that, then you have to know how to shoot well and conduct an interview, and because it's online, and lots of times we have video, and you have to know how to do all the things television people knew how to do, and TV people have to know how to do print stuff and social media and do the web stuff, and it's so much information, so much, and you're not getting paid anymore. That's the worst part. You have all these other skills, and you're not getting paid anymore. And that's something else it also talked about is the disparity of what people in the journalism industry and PR get, and you have a whole lot more. No offense to those people in PR, but you have asked to do a whole heck of a lot more things in a given day in a journalism setting, and having a lot more skills than in a PR setting. PRs, a lot of times you can get away with not having certain technical skills because someone else is there to do it there, and they have no problem with paying the extra person. In the journalism side, they're very well known for cutting corners at all costs, and then you're forced to do it, and so that makes things more frustrating as well. Other aspects, email interviews, and when you think from an electronic standpoint, then it's easy when you're incorporating questions. They can copy and paste them in there very easily. But I mean, then there's that whole aspect of the face-to-face interview and the interactions and listening to people and picking up on things. And I've done lots of interviews, and I can tell you that exists, is when you're talking to people and picking up on non-verbal tics or things within a given interview, and seeing what they say and being able to build up on that. And there's something about that, being able to have that interview right with them, and you're not getting with email interviews, so missing out things. And then they're able to like better polish their message, as opposed to a face-to-face interview when they don't have that luxury as much to do that. And then there's lots of times when you don't want to be called for plagiarism, but there's so many things online that you might be copying other people's work and you're not even doing it, or you're not attributing it, because you might have not even known it was there. You didn't even realize someone else did that or said something like that. And so that's another aspect when dealing in this. So there's enough problems and issues before when trying to make sure you're being above board, and now you might be not even realize you're doing it, and you get in trouble for it. So that's a whole other added aspect with dealing with the web and being a reporter. And like I said, you have all these different. You must meet the demands Convergence has made on reporting. You have to know how to do all these different things. What used to be just getting the story is all these other things, and social media and all that, and knowing all this technical stuff. And it's cheaper to hire one person to do 5 things than it is to do 5 people to do one thing. And technology has made that happen. And unfortunately, people, the workforce has gone down, and newspapers for sure are being cut down, but so are TV newsrooms, and now we have less people to cover things. And though there's still the same stories, same things are going on, and then you take corporate things and bias in general, and how many stories are getting lost because of all these different reasons. And what are you not being told? What are you not learning? How are you not being able to make the correct decisions of what you're seeing? It's hurting you. It's hurting all of us. It's hurting our future. Because we're not getting proper information because of a multitude of reasons. And that should piss people off. That should make people angry. How are you supposed to make a decision? Well, I heard this real quick, and this person told this, and I don't really have time for this. And see, that's the funniest part. You have all this information, but nobody has time to take in the information, or the proper stories aren't being told because they've cut so many people, and they're not able to tell the stories because so few people are doing 17 different things at the same time. They're still getting it out. But is it out? But what stories are they telling? Is there bias involved? Is there an intent for some reason? What messages are getting? It makes it so much harder to be informed. And people think they're informed because they have a whole lot of stuff, but they get a whole lot of garbage. What good is that stuff that you're getting? but it's not good quality information, and it's not people not doing their job the way they should be. Not to say not everybody's doing and we're doing the best we can with what we have. You find a lot of hardworking people working in the same boat, and I was one of them too. And they were just trying to find their way through each day, trying to get the stories and trying to do a good job. But there's so many other things that are on top of your plate, and other things that make it harder, and are the filtering things through, and what's this person doing, and what's that station doing, and there's so many things. It's I can't just talk about it in this one lecture. There's too much. It's enormous. It would just be so much for you to fathom, and people don't want to hear about it. It's too much. It's too much. My head hurts. I don't want to think about that. La 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 la. Go away. It doesn't help. And then you're still in the same boat because you're not learning anything, and you're not able to make the right decisions.